Hey everyone, welcome to this explainer. Take a second to just really think about the complex, rapidly shifting world we're living in right now. It's a world filled with absolutely breathtaking technological advancements, right? Incredible global connectivity. But at the exact same time, it's a world where we can feel profoundly disconnected. We're constantly navigating this overwhelming digital noise, complex global issues, and honestly, a pretty pervasive sense of isolation. But, and this is the important part, beneath all that noise, there are these amazing transformational human stories and grassroots movements working literally around the clock to make a difference. So today, we're exploring a deeply emotional, forward-thinking framework designed to cut right through that noise. We're looking at a platform that acts as a real catalyst for human empathy and sustainable change. Okay, let's dive into this, because this specific question sitting on the screen, who is amplifying the voices that matter, it really sits at the very heart of our modern struggle. Right now, millions of people, especially youth leaders, emerging founders, and grassroots volunteers, they're facing a really heavy reality. They've got all the passion in the world to change things, but their voices are just entirely drowned out by the algorithms. The people doing the absolute most important work on the ground are so often the ones with the least visibility. When our systems prioritize sensationalism over actual substance, well, the most meaningful stories just get completely lost. And the consequence of those voices going unheard? It's severe. We're seeing massive burnout and mental exhaustion. There's a really deep lack of meaningful support systems and fragmented well-being resources. The founder of the platform we're examining today, Simon Sundaraj-Kun, actually describes this as the messy middle of NGO advocacy. It's this painful friction point where people are trying so hard to make a difference, but they're fighting against entirely fragmented systems. They lack affordable capacity building programs. And honestly, they're basically running on empty, trying to turn their ideas into sustainable impact while navigating really deep digital exclusion. Now, to solve these kinds of modern challenges, we absolutely cannot rely on outdated blueprints. Looking at the comparison here, on one side, we have traditional, rigid strategic planning. Those legacy systems assume the world moves in nice, predictable timelines. But let's be real, we know it totally doesn't. Technology shifts daily. Communities evolve rapidly. By the time a traditional plan actually gets implemented, it's basically already obsolete. So, on the flip side, we have the solution, the evolutionary growth system. This is a model built entirely from the ground up on adaptability, human-centered thinking, and real-time community responsiveness. It's about moving with change rather than trying to resist it. And that exact evolutionary framework is the driving force behind Soar to Live. Founded by Simon Sundaraj-Kun, who's an AI human systems orchestrator, Soar to Live is an adaptive ecosystem. It is literally a breath of fresh air, designed to bridge the massive gap between powerful grassroots initiatives and public awareness. Basically, it's a purpose-driven online audio and video media platform that exists right at the intersection of storytelling, technology, and social impact. And to be clear, this is not just about posting passive motivational content, not at all. It is a meticulously designed machine for amplifying the changemakers and transformational human stories that actually matter. The whole Soar to Live ecosystem balances on three core interconnected pillars. First, storytelling. That's the vehicle for authentic human connection. Then, social impact. That's the destination, amplifying those changemakers who are out there creating measurable differences. But the third pillar, well-being. This is the true anchor of the whole operation. In this methodology, well-being isn't just an optional plugin or an afterthought. It is treated as an absolute, non-negotiable system requirement. By weaving these three forces together, Soar to Live takes raw, authentic stories and transforms them into real momentum and deeply rooted community trust. But, to achieve this kind of scale without losing the actual soul of the mission, we really have to talk about technology. And this brings us to a critical concept, AI human-centered symbiosis. There's a pretty hard truth we have to face today. A lot of modern AI transitions are built on a lie. The lie that you can just automate a whole process without breaking the people involved. In the social impact sector, that's not just a minor system error, that is a complete mission killer. Soar to Live, however, integrates technology ethically. It acts strictly to amplify human empathy, storytelling, and collaboration, not to replace them. We want to build the future, for sure, but without turning our organizations into cold, automated ghost towns. Now, what's really interesting about this slide is how it illustrates that this symbiosis requires a really delicate balance. Human intelligence, so we're talking empathy, lived experience, ethical judgment, has to sit perfectly alongside technological intelligence, which brings things like scalability, accessibility, translation, and rapid distribution. The outcome here is never human versus AI, never. It's human-centered systems that are actively enhanced by intelligent technology. The idea is that the AI does the heavy lifting, the tedious stuff, giving teams back their creative margin so they can actually focus on what matters most, the human connection. And all of this philosophy is anchored by one incredibly profound guiding principle. The mission remains stable. The methods evolve. It's such a grounding mechanism. Think about it. No matter how advanced the AI-assisted storytelling becomes, or how immersive the digital ecosystems get, those deeply rooted humanitarian values, they never shift. The entire goal is purposefully adapting our methods to fit modern realities, while ensuring our core commitment to amplifying human dignity stays completely rock solid. So what does this actually look like in practical application? Well, emerging technology shouldn't just exist for entertainment or data extraction. Within Soar to Live, AI-assisted storytelling, voice translation systems, and digital workflows are utilized specifically to democratize visibility. Imagine a local changemaker's story being instantly localized and distributed globally, breaking down language barriers. This is exactly how you connect isolated communities. A brilliant example from the founder's own background is Sophia, an AI chatbot designed to act as a 24/7 friend and resource for survivors of domestic violence. That is what the ethical use of tech looks like when it's built to preserve and protect humanity. Okay, so how does an organization like this actually grow? It happens through these fluid evolutionary stages. And notice, these aren't your typical rigid, short, mid, and long-term business plans. The immediate term is essentially a live learning environment. It's all about listening and adapting organically. Then we move into the pivotable term. Because let's face it, the future can't be forecasted perfectly. This stage is designed around recognizing momentum and responsibly pivoting toward the highest impact opportunities. And finally, the sustainable term. This isn't a fixed end goal. It's about building resilient, self-evolving ecosystems that will outlast any single passing trend or piece of technology. So the crucial point is captured beautifully right here. The organization evolves. The mission continues. Genuine, real-world impact requires this super delicate dance between structure and flexibility. If an organization stays frozen in outdated assumptions, it just dies. By embracing this free-flowing implementation philosophy, Soar to Live ensures that it can respond to emerging crises and new opportunities almost instantly. And most importantly, it allows the communities themselves to actively shape the direction of that growth. All of this brings us to an entirely new category of social impact ecosystem. We're talking about revolutionary evolutionary growth blends. It's this unique, powerful mix of human-centered storytelling, ethical technology integration, emotional intelligence, and real cross-sector collaboration between startups, NGOs, and governments. And let me be super clear about this. This isn't disruption just for the sake of looking innovative or trendy. It is a highly intentional, sustainable model. It ensures that the systems we're building actually grow alongside humanity, serving our needs rather than racing way ahead of us and leaving the most vulnerable people behind. And this brilliantly illustrates the true strategic identity of Soar to Live. It really is the DNA of a collaborative bridge. This is strictly not your traditional influencer media, and it's certainly not sensationalized or passive. Instead, it's an active, thriving space for well-being. It's a digital community ecosystem and a real catalyst where transformational stories are converted directly into real-world action and measurable momentum. Because at the end of the day, the entire journey starts right here. Stories create empathy. Think about it. When we hear the raw, unfiltered lived experiences of someone navigating incredible, real-life challenges, the walls of our own isolation just begin to drop. Empathy isn't just a fleeting feeling. It is literally the foundational building block of a connected society. And from that empathy, the energy really begins to scale up. Stories build movements. When one person's vulnerability connects with another's, it sparks this incredible recognition. Suddenly, all those isolated voices trapped in the messy middle realize, hey, we aren't alone. They start to collaborate, they share their resources, and they transform an individual, quiet struggle into a collective, unstoppable force for grassroots change. And ultimately, this brings us to the absolute peak of the mission. Stories change lives. Whether it's empowering a young local leader, funding an essential grassroots NGO, or simply making someone realize that their voice is actually worthy of being heard, sustainable impact just doesn't happen in a vacuum. It happens one meaningful, amplified story at a time. Which leaves us with this incredibly powerful, unifying vision on the screen. One mind, one heart, one vision. It is a deeply hopeful and uplifting reminder of what we are truly capable of when we combine human intelligence with purposeful innovation. We really can build a better society. We can construct a world where growth is accessible to everyone, where technology actively amplifies our compassion, and where absolutely no one has to navigate life or fight for change completely alone. This is the future of purposeful media. So the next time you find yourself feeling totally overwhelmed by the relentless noise of the digital world, I want you to ask yourself, what stories are you listening to? And whose voices are you helping to amplify? Thank you so much for joining me on this explainer today. I really hope this leaves you curious, emotionally moved, and inspired to seek out the voices that truly matter. Soar to live, amplifying voices that matter. Purpose, storytelling, impact.